All right, well, I will kick us off, Hitha. And, you know, this is just so exciting.
Thank you so much for having me.
So thrilled and excited to do this. So as I was sort of preparing some remarks here, Hitha, you know, it's just you are as I was saying, one of the least bucketable women that I know. And as the CEO and co-founder of a company whose mission is to restore balance to women and help them in body and in mind go out there and accomplish their goals, when I was reflecting on your accomplishments, like, it's incredible where you've put your energy as a pharmaceutical executive, as an investor, as a philanthropist, as a mother, as a book lover, as an author already. And now again, amplifying another woman who similarly is unbucketable and so accomplished. So you are just like the definition of kind of like virtuous circle here. And it's really exciting to talk about, you know, the inspiration behind the book and really get into it behind the scenes with you.
Yes, well, I am powered by Equilibria CBD. That is the only way I can get anything done. So thank you for creating such incredible products that do help me find at least homeostasis in my body so I could do all the things and not lose my mind.
As we say, like, you know, there's no woman is ever balancing just one thing, but Hitha is balancing 29 things always. So I'm glad we can be a small part of helping with that. But let's just kick it off with why did you write this book? We are obviously, you know, for those of you who don't know, and as you're watching this, we're here tonight to talk about Hitha's most recent book, we're speaking the life lessons of Kamala Harris, how to use your voice, be assertive, and own your story. So Hitha, break down for us your inspiration. Why did you write this book?
So I wrote the book I needed to read, and actually I had to reread this like earlier this year because I was like, oh, I'm starting to lose it again, and I need to remind myself who I am and remind myself of my multitudes, and that to talk to myself more than I listen to myself. And it started because when I was beginning my career in pharmaceuticals, I was almost always the only woman in the room, the youngest person in the room, one of the only people of color in a room. And so to be all of those others all at the same time in an industry that is extremely older, and let's be honest, it's pale, male, and stale. And it didn't really know how to show up as myself, but still professional and decisive and had something to contribute to every single meeting I was brought into. And, you know, yeah. I did the things from dressing overly masculine and just kind of, you know, not loving what I was wearing and not feeling good in my skin, to not speaking and being that person who just like took the minutes and was like, I'm just here to listen. I'm just here to participate. Like, I'm here. Don't worry about me. And feeling really frustrated because I would hear conversations happening and I'd have something to contribute, and I didn't have that confidence or the strength to speak up. So I was on some business trip, sitting on my hotel room bed, CNN on the background. This is when I actually watched cable news, and it didn't drive me insane. And I see this woman who kind of looks like me walk to a podium and start speaking with such clarity and such power about how she had negotiated a massive settlement from the largest banks for California's homeowners. Mm-hmm. That's Kamala Harris, when she was then Attorney General of California.
Yes.
And for the first time, I was like, I see myself like in a powerful position. Yeah. Who is this person? Let me learn everything I can about her. And she kind of became my mentor from afar, which is something I write about in the book. And she showed me how to show up as myself, not apologizing for being all of the firsts or the onlys I was, and to start viewing myself as, I'm Hitha, I have something to contribute. And so I started putting together this little book of Kamala-isms to like give me the strength to review before I jumped into a meeting or walked into a presentation or knew I was going into a tough negotiation. And so obviously when she was elected senator, I was delighted. When she announced her candidacy for president, I was all in. And when she dropped out of the race, I was heartbroken. And then when she obviously became the VP pick and then they were elected, it was everything. And it was a week after the election had been called that my editor reached out to me and said, listen, we love you. I loved your first book. I love what you're doing with 5 Smart Reads. I think your take on Vice President-elect Harris has been really interesting and different from what is typically reported of her. We're really interested in doing this book. Would you be interested in writing it? And I was like, yes. And I was like, they're like, great. Can you turn it in 2 months? And I was like, say what now?
But of course you can. I mean, I think it's so powerful about this story, Hitha, that you had been following. Obviously, Kamala had an incredible, you know, as you said, kind of trailblazing career before she hit the national stage. But who better than you to pull that together so quickly? You had your points. You had been channeling her before every big meeting, for years.
And this book, it did flow. I mean,
you can tell that by reading it.
Wrote it
you are,
It flew. It really did flow out of me. And you know, writing a book is not an easy thing, but this was a lot easier to write than my first book was. Like I instinctively knew what each chapter would be. I instinctively knew which woman I wanted to contribute an essay to the chapter.
Let's dig into some of those contributors, because I think well, 2 things first. Maybe let's start at the top and then we'll go to this incredible, I mean, your tenacity, Hitha, and your network and your the way that you've gone out and found those contributors is just so impressive. And I want to, maybe they're the next books too. But we're speaking. I think we all remember that night in the vice president debates, and you know, the nails going down the chalkboard, the like just such an uncomfortable moment where, you know, we've all been there before. And what do those words above and beyond that night, what do they mean to you? Why is that, was that the right title for the book?
Well, that moment, I think anyone who's ever had to be an other in any room who knows what that feels like, but they keep getting spoken over, their points are being completely misinterpreted, and they've had, all of us, I think, have wanted to be able to say with that level of passion and power to say, I'm speaking. Stop, I'm speaking. And it was a viral moment. And We're Speaking is obviously a nod to that viral moment, but it also is, in its way, kind of a summary of how I think Vice President Harris views power, but also how all of us view power. And something I've really unpacked in writing this book and thinking about and observing the news, especially lately, is the people who've traditionally always had power view it as very limited and finite. And that's why they're so protective of keeping it. They don't do much with it. Whereas I think a very feminine view of power is that power is infinite, much like love is, especially when you become a mother. Your heart doesn't divide in 2. When you have a second child, it really does. It grows. And
I still ask me that all the time when they're being mean and competitive to each other, but it does grow. That's such a great analogy, power and love.
And I think power is very much the same way. The more power is shared in the hands of many, the more power works for the many. And I think we're also seeing that in terms of how we respond to a global pandemic and how we respond to, you know, the relief bills, and like everything is connected in this way. So We're Speaking was really intentional for me because I knew this was not just a book about Vice President Harris or my analysis or my pulling these sort of connecting tactical advice to some of the things that I admire most about her, but there are women in my life that I thought were so uniquely qualified to write, you bring their life experience in and write these tactical tips for each chapter, that it was a no-brainer. And I'm delighted my publisher was on board with that. And I'm really thrilled everyone said yes.
So tell us, like, how did you go about and curate? And again, some of the women that you have brought in as contributors are again, I think also beckoning for their own stories to be written and are so powerful. So how did you go about doing that? Were you afraid? I know the answer is no, but did you have any trepidation? Any advice on kind of reaching out and finding those like great icons and pulling them closer to you?
Sure. So the first and last chapters are, those essays are written by two of my longest friends, Esther and Samira. We started our careers together at Cisco Systems.
Amazing.
Esther is still at Cisco as an executive. Sammy is now a senior executive at AWS. And these women embody, like Esther is like, she was from a Nigerian family, born in the UK, came to the United States as a teenager. Her sister is an actress. Her other sister is a singer. I am like, I need to write your mom's book now. Like, yep. Auntie B is who we need to hear from on how to raise formidable daughters. But Esther, you know, worked multiple jobs to support her sisters and, you know, was an NFL and a cheerleader while she was also kicking ass in the sales organization. And I was like, nobody else speaks multitudes the way Esther does. So she is the one to write this chapter. Samira, similarly, when I think about dope being the last, she was the first in our class, in our training class, to become a regional manager and then operations director. And she was in one of the most conservative groups within Cisco, service providers. So Cablevision was her client, then Comcast, and then all of the global media and entertainment groups. So when I think of something, she remade the organization in the way the world looks, not the way it has always been. And she's doing that at Amazon now. Incredible. And brought that to the table when, one, very few young women were in leadership roles, and did it with such gumption and strength that I was like, clearly you are the one who needs to write this chapter. And then, you know, Mandana Dayani, I met her a couple of times, you know, we were friendly online, but I literally was like, I do something about it and don't do it half-assed, just is her. And yes, sent her an email, sent her the draft chapter I had written, and I said, your wisdom is what is going to make this chapter sing. Would you be willing? And she said yes. And that was incredibly, incredibly thrilling. Same with Naj Austin, who wrote about self-care as someone who's building a community centered around care. So, you know, I'm really lucky to call all these women my friends now. And
that's such a great lesson in and of itself. I think also, you know, we're sort of taught for so long to like, we can do it ourselves and just like, you know, lean in and do it all. And like the we of your title, I think gives a nod to community and the power of others. And I love that you did that with these contributorships. And, you know, it's not just your voice. It's not just her voice. It's amplifying others. And it takes courage. It takes a lot of courage to reach out and ask people to go above and beyond on your behalf with you, for you. But, you know, we're all better for it. And I know they were happy to do it. And certainly your authorship or your readership is happy. So, what about confidence? You mentioned this already, that, you know, Kamala was such a role model for you, and that you saw in her yourself, and that she was a strong, confident, powerful woman up there. And you talk a little bit about borrowed confidence, yes. Which is such a powerful concept. Can you share a little bit more about that, and sort of how did you, some examples of borrowed confidence just in your everyday life?
Yeah, well, my friend Dara came up with the concept of borrowed confidence. And at first it was like a very quick Instagram story that she had like filmed. And I remember seeing it immediately and going, Dara, like, you need to make this a reel, or this needs to live on your feed, because I need this to revisit this on a daily basis for myself. And this was well before I was even thinking about the book. For me, like, listen, I was a brown kid who grew up in a white spaces with his name ended in poo. I had to grow a thick skin at a very young age. And because I was never, I think, the archetype of like what was normal or what was considered, you know, the right thing to be in a time where we weren't really celebrating differences and we weren't really celebrating diversity. I didn't have a lot of confidence, really, even until my mid-20s. I think it was right around the time I met my husband and I started working with my father, did I start actually feeling any sense of pride and confidence in myself. But it also, the imposter syndrome would set in really, really quickly. I think motherhood is like one of the most powerful confidence building tools you could ever ask for, because one, you really learn, you have no choice but to shed a lot of the narratives you might have internalized or the negative perceptions that you somehow told yourself were true, because you have to focus on keeping this tiny human alive and keep yourself sane. Like there isn't much room for anything else. And so I think like confidence for me personally came with motherhood, certainly came with second time motherhood. Yeah. And it took me until my mid 30s for me to really like myself and to be able to tell myself, I'm proud of you. And then I also think like when you have to shut down a startup, which is the most confidence shattering thing, being able to build yourself back up and remind yourself that not being a success has nothing to do with my personal
who I am.
And I am more than this one moment in my life. So that is like sort of my personal confidence journey. But what I love about the concept of borrowed confidence is it's just such a great tool to just reconnect yourself with who you've always been and remind yourself that if you don't see yourself that way, there are people who see you that way, and to create this little hype file that you can revisit in your low moments to make yourself remind yourself of who you are. That's really what it is you're reminding yourself and reconnecting with who you are, and you're shedding external narratives, external perceptions, and the worst of your psyche.
And Hitha, you do that all of the time for other people. You have to know that you have put confidence into other people's borrowed confidence bank. When you sit down with Hitha, as I hope many of you will be able to do, watching this live or watching the recording, you exude confidence. You are comfortable in your own skin. It is amazing to me to hear your journey, and that, we're talking about a decade ago where we're sitting down with you might not have felt that, but sit down with Hitha, feel that from her, and you get to store some confidence in your bank, because we all need that. So borrow from Hitha, because
I will. Well, and I probably will, like in that moment, like send you a text or send you a DM and tell you to like screenshot it and start your own little hype file on like your iCloud app.
Yes, exactly. Store that. So that's so inspiring, Hitha. Okay, now let's move on to my other favorite concept from the book, permeated throughout, obviously, is North Star. So, what is your North Star, and how do you think about that, and kind of tying that back to Kamala, and tell us about North Star.
I feel like I have a North constellation because it's like all together, but there are different things. And I think it's because I have different priorities at any given time. And, you've been so like gracious in saying all the things I do, but it's important for me to acknowledge I don't do them all at the same time. Like right now, my investor hat is taking a bit of a break, and I'm focused on operating my business, obviously speaking and talking about this book and being more present for my family and friends than I was last year, which was not at all. And those are the three things I'm really focused on. But when I think about how I spend my time am I helping those around me, either via social media or online, or the people directly with me, feel good, feel happy, feel safe, feel secure? And am I helping them live their best and highest use? Because I have benefited from people who believed in me and put that time and investment in me. And so this is my chance to pay it forward. So right now, my husband is in the middle of a career transition of himself. So being able to be with him and just listen to him tell me about, I had this interview where I talked to this person, and here's an opportunity that I'm not sure about. Mm-hmm. And it's not about actually offering my opinion, but just being present and listening. Same with my kids. Like my phone's, I do Wordle from bed in the morning, and then I have my phone like on the nightstand. But that morning,
that's it. Wordle is all that crosses into my unplugged time with my kids. Exactly. I agree. Yeah.
And then I focus on my kids, and that, because I don't want to be the person on my phone checking an Instagram DM when Rose trying to tell me about like the latest dinosaur. That matters. And so being very focused and present with them in the time I have with them every single day. And listen, I had the morning with them this morning, and this evening I was like, mommy's got to work and like get cute and do all those things. So I'm sorry, I won't be able to put you to bed. Like I sat and did homework with Ro, and I'm just like, how do I have a child old enough to do homework? Like this is weird. And, I FaceTime my parents and touched base with them earlier today, but, I didn't really get to fill up some of the other cups, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
I don't really seek daily balance, I think that will drive us crazy. And I think the thing with the concept of the North Star is, am I just moving in the right direction?
Yep.
Did I do something in service of this big, of what I know I'm meant to do with my short time on this planet? You can say yes to that, to just, I did one thing today. That is what I think reaffirms you. And it's about what we do every single day consistently, not what we do exceptionally well on occasion, that defines who we are and will lead to whatever impact we make. So I think that is it's a good reminder of affirming, connecting ourselves to our North Star, but also remembering that it doesn't have to be just one thing. It could be a constellation.
I love the constellation. I love the constellation so much. That's very helpful. And you mentioned you have stars in your constellation right now that you're moving towards, and they're the brightest in your sky right now. And there are others that are a little dimmer. Mm-hmm. And in the next chapter, you can, your constellation can shift. Isn't that seasonal? I need some, so exactly. I love that. And the concept that balance can't come every day. Like we can't fill all the cups every day. But I was reading a book, the EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. Do you know this one?
Yeah.
The EOS philosophy, about 10 years. We can set, you're a North Star. You can make a lot of movement towards that North Star, like really meaningful, impactful movement. Definitely not in a day, not in a week, not in a month, maybe not in a year, but like, hopefully, we're all granted, a couple decades and none of us are in control of this. But if we are, then over the course of big swaths of time, you can start to see how real impact and truly anything that you want can be accomplished. So that takes a lot of pressure off, I think. Like, it's okay. Give yourself 10 years for that North Star. So
I love that. Yeah. Decades, I think, are a much easier unit of time to grasp. You're able to actually, buffer in that it's going to take me time to figure out what the actual plan is. So here's the time to play. Here's the time to explore. Here's the time to execute. And then here's the time to rest.
It gives some space for all of those different, your all the stars in your sky, Hitha. I love it. Okay. So a couple more questions and then I can turn it over to you and see if there's anything you thought we missed out on. Style. We've talked a lot about many of the investments that you have made in your personal portfolio. And I think this concept of what does powerful femininity look like is something near and dear to your heart. And this comes up in the book, obviously, and there's so much public attention paid to the vice president's style, her fashion choices, her makeup, her oratory sense. Can you tell us more about the importance of establishing a personal style and why women are subject to greater scrutiny? What does that mean? Should we shy away from that? Unpack that a little bit for us.
It is a minefield laden topic, but for me, what I learned from Vice President Harris when I was studying her early on in my career, that it wasn't what you wore, it was how you wore it, and always making sure you're adhering to some general dress codes, especially in very formal business meetings, in my case. So I realized I didn't love pantsuits, or actually I do love pantsuits now, but back then I wanted something that felt a little bit more feminine and a little bit more bold. And I loved a dress also because it's one thing you have to pack versus 3 pieces, one much easier to steam in a shower than, a full suit. So I really gravitated towards dresses, which led me to MM LaFleur, which led me to my very first investment. And, to this day, I have my very first MM dresses still in my closet that I still wear. And that is when I need to be, to quote the incredible show Ted Lasso, a boss ass bitch. That's what I'm wearing.
Yeah,
that is what I'm wearing. I also have 2 other modes of Hitha that are equally important and I make space for, which is slob Hitha, which is what most of the people of the Upper West Side see.
No one's seen it. I have not seen slob Hitha. Not
on my Instagram feed. She's the one in leggings and a sweatshirt and the top knot and not looking cute.
Just but casual Hitha. It's every day bopping around Upper West Side.
And I need that. I need to create that space to be able to say, I'm just going to throw on workout clothes that I don't know if I'm going to work out, but this is the intention I'm putting out there. But I also need to be comfortable to I'm gonna end up tying shoes or picking up backpacks or grabbing something from the street because Rocky chucked it out of his stroller, and that serves that role. And then I have, I think what I call her future Hitha, but basically like an eccentric, crazy old lady who wears like caftans and really fun jewelry and headbands.
Yes.
My caftan and headband side of my closet is the one that brings me the most joy.
Oh, love that.
One, it's extremely comfortable. And two, it's like, it embraces that I do this for myself. I wear this to please myself and reminds me of, this is who you've always been, but this is who you will really get to be when like you've accomplished, you've just like finished up and wrapped up a couple of things.
A couple of those other chapters, but you, and you can be that now, just not in all parts of your life.
100%. And it's very fun. And I
maybe not in the boardroom, but
yes, I don't think I could get away with wearing like my fringe, like marble printed caftan with like a puffy teal headband at a board meeting. But after a board meeting, when I am luxuriating in bed reading a romance novel, absolutely.
Yes, Hitha. Yes, Hitha. I love that. I know I that's amazing. Yeah. So
but to unpack it from the why does women's style get scrutinized at a level, it's because everything we do gets scrutinized at another level by nitpicking the details of women and kind of not holding men to that same standard. It is one way that we've had our power somewhat removed from us, and that we have had to be mindful about this. And now I'm really hopeful that we've started to challenge that a bit more, in that Ayanna Pressley no longer wears a wig. She goes, I have alopecia. I can't be bothered. Here's my wig. Representative Catherine Clark from Massachusetts, her hair is fully gray and she just rocks it. She goes, I cannot be bothered to get my roots done and I like it this way.
Right.
And so we're starting to see.
It's my experience. It's my wisdom.
It is.
Not
and we're
something I need
starting
to cover
to
up.
see it be pushed, the narrative be pushed. I think in time it will be less, but I hope, women as a whole acknowledge, if I'm gonna have to deal with this, I may as well wear what makes me feel good. And I think if you view clothing and however you choose to wear makeup or do your hair as armor and war paint, not necessarily as what will people think of me if I wear this, but like I'm putting this on my body to feel strong and feel powerful and feel great about myself. That's a mental reframing that has helped me, certainly in my professional career.
And then if others choose to over-index on it, like that's their problem. Like they're missing the point. I remember pitching a group of investors early on with my first company, and one group, the lead investor for this venture fund, his commentary after my pitch was about my high heels and how tall they were. And I thought, like, you idiot, like I would never give you the privilege of being on my cap table to make money for you, because you just wasted your voice in my time. Like, don't talk about my high heels right now. I wear them for me, not for you.
Yep.
In summary, let's talk about balance, because obviously, this we're speaking is a portrait of a woman who is just incredible and such an icon and so strong, and we can learn so much from her. And Hitha, you do have so many parts of your life that we've talked about. So we've talked about the constellation and not doing all at once, but were there any tips that when you were researching the book that you uncovered, any life hacks that Kamala has that, you wanted to share, or things that bring you balance above and beyond knowing you don't have to do it all in a day?
I really love how she really is firm about, this is my time. Like, these are the moments in my day where it's my time. I am not available to you. So she works out every single morning. And that's more like the thing I do for, she says it, I do it for my mental health more than my physical health. It just clears my head and gets me ready for the day. And the way she treats Sunday night dinner, like as a sacred ritual that helps her connect with herself, with her family. And I think that is so powerful. And listen, if the second most powerful person in the world and one of the most powerful women in the world is taking the time to do things that fill her cup, all of us can think about ways we can just claim back our time And maybe that means shifting some tasks to other people who we share our homes with and not doing it all, to step in, claim our power and take care of ourselves. Because how are we supposed to do all the things if we don't like rest and do the things that make us happy? And so I also think that it's really inspiring to me. She didn't get married until she was much later in life.
Yeah.
She never had biological children, but she's extremely maternal.
Yes.
And to flip the script on what maternal means is something I have so much admiration and respect for, because, you know, there was a time in my life, I didn't know if I was going to get married and then have kids of my own, but I was so involved with my nieces and nephews' life that I felt very fulfilled being an aunt. And, you know, I'm delighted that my life journey took me this way, but I also know that loving on all the children in my family brought me such great joy and great connection that if it didn't happen for me, I would have never felt lesser than, and I would have felt even more seen by her. And I think that's something that's really powerful. And it reminds us that we get to define these terms for ourselves and to shed what society has deemed is the term for it, which has probably got a misogynistic patriarchal root.
Hitha. Yes. Preach on, Hitha. No, that's so powerful. So powerful. Tell us a little bit, can we hear a little bit about your CBD routine and what brings you balance in that respect?
I mean, I consume so much CBD. It just makes me happy. Like my ECS is running on full, and I can like feel my homeostasis kicking in, and it's wonderful. And I love talking about this.
If Hitha can do it, you all can too. You know, watch.
Truly, my Equilibria routine kept me sane writing this book, because I also like decided to embark on dry January into half of February when I was writing. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do to not like, what am I going to do to mark like different moments and unwind a bit? And it is CBD. So I start every day with the gummy, which I enjoy while I'm wordling. And then before like our team calls on Monday, I definitely need a dropper. Yep. Just to like kick in, or a rapid calming melt. And I definitely do like a bath at least a couple times a week with like your amazing topical bath products. The treatment oil is like my goat, especially in the winter for my skin. And I've been working out more lately, so the relief cream has been extremely necessary, as well as the oil. And then before bed, I do 2 droppers of the extra strength drops.
Ooh, yes. I'm out of my extra strength supply. I need to go replenish. That's a goodie.
I made sure like my subscription was still going with subscription sale.
Well, Hitha, we cannot wait to share this with our community far and wide. We are so grateful that you took the time in your day to speak with us.